Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a photo card haul from Mercari, Japan. It's also going to be a Q&A because I definitely ran out of topics that I could monologue about in my last very long Mercari, Japan haul, if you saw that video, probably a good month ago at this point, but I definitely still don't have a ton to say. So I asked for questions on my Instagram and also anonymous questions. And then I also found questions I had asked for in January because I had planned to do a Q&A back in January and then I just didn't. So I'm just going to do a combination of those questions as I go through the haul. Once again, all of this stuff is not all for me. It's split between me and two friends this time. So there's going to be, once again, a lot of Ateez and then also a lot of BTS album photo cards. So let's get into it. First, I'm going to start off with the anonymous questions. The first question is, are there any particular harder to get or more expensive items that I have noticed go down in price recently? I think this is probably in response to me in all my videos saying that like now is a really great time to collect and stuff because I've seen the prices start to go down. And just before I really get into it, I'm not going to take out my friend's stuff because it's honestly a pain to repackage up because I will be sending it directly to them. So if we can't see the card, I'll take it out, but if we can see the card like this, then I will keep it. I'm gonna put my stuff in the middle and keep it unpackaged, and then my other friend didn't get too much in this haul, but I'll put her stuff over here. So anyway, back to the question. I think I'm being asked this because I keep talking about in all of my videos how I personally think it's a great time to be buying things that we haven't been able to see for a while. And also just in general, I feel like the prices of everything are going down. I think there's not a real answer to that question because it's all extremely dependent on who is selling their collection. I don't think it's helpful necessarily for me to point to a specific piece of merch and be like, yes, this is something that's historically going down in price, because I think just in general, BTS merch is going down in price right now. That's not always true. Like I said, as things get rarer, the price just naturally increases for some things as they get older and continue to stay out of circulation. But that's not to say that the same rare items that people were buying in, say, 2020 aren't lower now than they were at like the height of pandemic collecting. So I can't give you any specific examples because it's just things that I've seen, like broadcast cards. I think those prices have definitely started to go down. I've seen signed merch be cheaper, and it just depends, like I said, on who's actually selling their collection. So apologies, I don't think I answered your question. It's just a trend across all types of merch that I've noticed. It's definitely on the decline, at least from the pandemic prices. I didn't collect pre-pandemic price increase, so I can only speculate on exactly how it used to be, say back in 2018 or something, because I was not collecting back then. But in my experience, from starting kind of at the all-time high of like 2020, 2021, everything is on the decline. So that's been very exciting. I've been looking forward to this moment since I started collecting because it's only natural that these things come in waves, and we're definitely on a decline. So there's nothing particular I can point to that's going down in price per se, beyond me feeling like there is a general trend of a price decrease across every type of merch, except for like obviously the ultra rare one of a kind shit is always going to be very expensive. But like, for example, I got my hands on the Beijing fan sign pages for historically way lower than I had seen them for over the past 3 years. So things like that are happening all the time. It's really exciting if you want to get some of those items you maybe have thought you were never gonna own. I think some of them at least are getting closer to achieving. So exciting all around. So this is the first card from my friend, so I will put him there. Anyway, the next question also on Anon was, how do you keep yourself motivated to collect? No worries if I've already answered this before. I have actually answered this question before in the last big Q&A that I did, I think last summer, possibly over a year ago at this point. But I'll kind of reiterate what I said in that video, and it's basically just, and I know this is a non-satisfactory answer for people who are looking for a genuine response, but my genuine response is that I don't think a person who collects and likes collecting needs motivation. I think the motivation you have to do it is intrinsically there, and if it's not, then it's probably not a hobby that you need to be participating in. You know what I mean? I don't need to keep myself motivated because I just am motivated to collect. I'm excited about new releases. I'm excited about tracking down the back collection, and I have been forever now. Like literally since I started collecting, I haven't really hit a spot where I was like lacking in motivation. I definitely think there's periods of time where you're more interested in being an active collector than others. That's certainly the case, I think, for everyone. But on whole, I feel like if you need to motivate yourself to collect, maybe you just shouldn't be doing it, because it's time and money that maybe you should be investing in something else. You know what I mean? So that is the short answer to my longer response that I've given before, but essentially, like, I can't say anything else besides the fact that I know myself, and I know I wouldn't be doing the things that I do if I didn't have the motivation to collect. And if you find yourself lacking in motivation for over a sustained period of time, also, Hobie is stuck. So maybe I'm going to take him out carefully and then resume this conversation. There he is. Okay, he's safe and sound. I'm going to keep him out because I don't think he needs to stay in this contraption. But essentially what I'm saying is, if you find yourself lacking the motivation over a sustained period of time, maybe it's just not the hobby for you, and I think that's totally okay to come to realize, because I don't think this is a hobby that anyone should be forcing. I have a lot of fun doing it, but it's not necessary to do if you don't want to do it. So I hope that whatever decision you come to, that you know that there's really no right or wrong way to be a fan, and having a collection is not indicative of how much you love or support the person or group that you're a fan of. You don't need to collect or really dig in for motivation to collect if it's just not there. This boy actually goes here with all the Jungos because she's also completing You Never Walk Alone as an OT7 set. I was also in the midst of completing my tiny little TXTs collection, which I think this is actually the last TXT card that I need, and my collection is completely up to date to where I want it to be. There are definitely a few cards I want to get from this Japan release though, but it's not pressing at all. I'll just see what I can find on Mercari Japan when the time comes. But for now, I think I'm basically done with my TXT collection until the next Korean comeback, which is very exciting. Someone asked, is prioritizing certain photo cards better for your collecting, or do you prefer going with the flow? I'm a go with the flow kind of gal. Honestly, I do have one template that I make of priority PCs every year, and whatever disposable income I have for that month that I have allowed myself to spend on photo cards in my collection, I do try to cross off those wish list items for sure. If there's no crazy good listing calling my name that I happen to come across as a good opportunity purchase, as I like to call them, then I will defer to my wish list and try to cross things off my wish list. My wish list is going very well this year. I'm very excited about it. I only have 3 things left on it, which is crazy because it's July. So that does show you there is a part of me that does like to prioritize for my collection, or maybe speaks to the less luck that I've had this year, maybe as opposed to last year where I was just kind of coming across lucky listing after lucky listing. I feel like this year isn't different, but I definitely have been trying to stay on course with my priorities, just because I had a pretty ambitious wish list for 2023 and I really wanted to see a lot of that collecting come to fruition, which it has. So that's been exciting. But in general, I feel like it's just a lot better to be a go with the flow collector, not to the point where you're making crazy impulsive decisions and then the card shows up in the mail and you're like, why did I buy this? I have nowhere to put it. I don't mean it like that. I more mean it like, go with the flow to be able to seize a good opportunity especially because, like I've said, and as that first question alluded to about like what is good to be collecting right now, or what have I seen going on in price with more harder to get items, I think having a go with the flow mentality, knowing generally what kind of cards you want, but being flexible is exactly how you get your collection to keep growing in the direction that you want it to grow. So I do think it is a disservice to your collection if you are entirely regimented in your priorities, but certainly direction helps, because then you're going to end up with a lot of cards that you're just like, why did I pay for this? What was I thinking? Where was I going to put it? And I feel like in general, I haven't really faced that issue, so that's nice. But I think it comes from a balance of priorities and going with the flow, because there's really nothing worse than thinking back on a listing you could have bought but you didn't, and feeling that kind of regret can be very frustrating and it can haunt you. There are some listings that I passed by on that I still think about to this day, and I was like, why did I not just go for it? Obviously, this is only the case if you can afford the listing that you're lamenting. I feel like lamenting a listing that was unrealistic anyway is different. But if we're talking about listings that like you could have made work but then chose not to, those are the worst feelings in the world. So that is why I try to adopt responsibly irresponsible, so one can both prioritize but also have the flexibility to go with the flow, because I think some of the greatest collecting moments for me have been from go with the flow moments, not ones that I heavily planned. So that's just my opinion and approach to things. I'm always curious to see how people collect and if they're highly regimented or not. I feel like it's just difficult to be highly regimented because there's obviously things you can always find. Like you can always find album cards on the market. You can always find DVD cards on the market. But some of those special items that just don't come up that often, you have to be willing to have the flexibility to accommodate kind of a change of plan. Because if you don't, you're just gonna miss every kind of amazing listing that pops up. So that is my advice for that. I don't really know if that answered the question, but I hope it gave a little bit of insight into how I collect. GCFSSSSS Night asked me, what made you start collecting? What made me start collecting? I don't even remember at this point. It's been like 3 years. So I always say that I wasn't into collecting for like a year and a half of me first being an Army. Became an Army in November of 2018. And then I started collecting in March of 2020. So about a year and a half, I think that makes sense. I definitely think the pandemic spawned it on, but also my life circumstance was just a lot different in 2018 versus 2020. I didn't really have the disposable income in 2018 to be collecting, so merch and photo cards and stuff like that wasn't just something I paid a lot of attention to. I've always said the first BTS album that I pulled, I don't even have the photo card anymore. I don't have my first pull ever because I just didn't understand at the time what collecting even was. So I think for a while I stayed away from it because I just didn't have the money to be buying a collection. And 2020 was different time. Obviously, we were all stuck at home. I was just about to graduate from college. I was working like 3 different jobs, stuck inside. I had been watching collecting content for a while at that point, just enjoying what I saw. And I remember I like started looking at listings and I was like, I don't know if I really want to do this. And then I remember looking at tier O for Taeyong and just being like, I need that card. I need that card so badly that I'm like, maybe it'll just be the only card I collect, but I need it.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
And so that was the first photo card I ever bought on eBay, of course, which was such, as we know, a bad idea. Don't buy album photo cards on eBay, but you know, you live and you learn. And thankfully I quickly got off eBay, but that is where it all started. So I feel like it was a combination of finally being in a life circumstance where I could afford to collect, which is important, obviously. And then 2, the pandemic and being at home and consuming collecting content and being like, hey, that looks really fun. and then trying it out and being like, wow, this is really fun. I really like this hobby, and the rest is history, I guess. And now I certainly own a lot more than that one day card. So anyway, that's how I started collecting. I'd love to know how you all started collecting as well, because it is like kind of a funny hobby, and I feel like it's a very quick slippery slope. Like one day you're doing one thing, and then the next you are unboxing a million cards for you and your friends. Like, truly, how did we get here? How did we get here? I don't know. Just going with the flow, I guess. Also, these backs are so fun with the finger hearts. Next question is, what are your biggest packaging pet peeves when you receive an item? Let me tell you, my biggest pet peeves are, obviously this is annoying for everyone, but it is especially annoying to me from established sellers who have a good reputation and a lot of proofs, so no one says shit to them. But I cannot stand getting a top loader in a bubble mailer not affixed to cardboard. It drives me crazy. It is my biggest pet peeve when people send pricey items not affixed to cardboard. A top loader floating around in a bubble mailer is not enough. I understand it's different when you're doing a trade and a greeting card, and the envelope, the way it holds it and the way that it gets taped up is likely, not always, obviously anything can happen in transit, but it is likely strong enough to not bend the card. But when top loaders are just floating around in a big bubble mailer without any hard cardboard preventing it from being bent or just twisted around in a bad way, it drives me nuts. It's happened to me multiple times with people sending me broadcast cards, and even like some people that I proxy for. I just recently was sent Blooming Nights broadcast cards in a bubble mailer without cardboard, and I'm just like, you know how much these people paid for these cards, and you're doing absolutely nothing to protect it. And like I said, they're like established people. You can't say anything to them because that's just how the community goes, you know? But it drives me nuts. It is my biggest pet peeve. Just affix it to cardboard. Top loaders are not strong enough. Look at that. Especially the bigger top loaders too. Some of these size ones can be pretty rigid, but once you start getting bigger and bigger and bigger, the rigidity gets less and less and less. And I have had top loaders come in the mail like this before, just to fix it to cardboard. I'm sorry I'm like screaming at you, but it like just happened. So I'm so upset about it, because you know, big sellers on Instagram, they're like, you know, I don't send videos or packing proof or whatever because I'm so big and important. And it's just like, it comes to a point where it's just like, you're being lazy and it's negatively affecting the quality of the cards that you're sending out, and someone just has to say something. So anyway, sorry for the rant. I didn't realize I was gonna get that heated about it, but apparently I feel strongly about that question more than I thought that I did. I think, like I said, it's just because it literally just recently happened, and it drove me nuts to see that someone would have someone pay a high price for a broadcast card and then do the bare minimum of protection on it. It's just, it's frustrating. I think you shouldn't even have to ask for cardboard in that situation, but that's just my opinion. I have a very hard question, and that is, what is your favorite BTS meme? I can't pick. Like, that's such a mean question. I don't know. There are so many funny memes and long-running jokes in this fandom that are just so good. They're so good. I appreciate a callback, I gotta say. I love when lore gets built around a meme and you all can say just a phrase and everyone knows what you're talking about. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about Twitter. Perhaps one of the only beautiful things about Twitter is just the community building that comes from the memes that get spawned. So I feel like I can't pick one. I think, you know, one that comes to mind is obviously the Jimin extension cord meme, but like that one's like pretty standard. I feel like most people on Twitter know that one, and it's kind of like a basic answer, but there are some really funny niche ones if you've been on ARMY Twitter. So if you know, you know. For like the purposes of memes that I've made in my own head from things that the members have said, I think one of my personal favorite memes is Tay's dry delivery of "That's the eyeliner" in response to Hobie being like, "You can see the passion in our eyes." "That's the eyeliner" is something that I have memed myself and use in my own life. It's just like a nonsensical response. So I can't answer that question because BTS are just too funny. They give us too much content to work with. And then also the fandom is hilarious. I don't care what Tay says. The fandom is hilarious. There's too many to pick from. So apologies. That's definitely a cop-out of your question, but it's a if you know, you know situation. Also, when I've been enjoying lately, just because, you know, times are hard. Times are hard is the ironic saying of "shine, dream, smile." I will say that in regular conversation when like things are bad. It's just like "shine, dream, smile." Things like that. So let me know down below what niche army memes get you through the day, because there's quite a lot and it's a fun time. It's honestly the only time Twitter is fun, is when some hilarious Twitter lore is being built. Is my favorite kind of Twitter night, to be honest. Someone asked, if BTS had only one album, which one would you want it to be? I am totally gonna cop out and I'm gonna say Proof. You should have excluded Proof and prevented me from being able to pick that as my answer. But Proof obviously can give you a sampling of all of their albums, and it is technically an album. So let me go Proof Collector's Edition. No, I feel like the standard is fine. Gotta think about that international shipping, you know? But honestly, if you excluded Proof, I don't think I could pick, because there are first of all, so many Jungkook's. There are so many Jungkook's in this fall. But anyway, there are just so many good songs on each album, and so many reasons why I like certain eras of BTS, and I can't pick. So I'm gonna cop out and I'm gonna say Proof. If I could only have one album for BTS, it would be Proof. Anyway, I will now turn to the questions that I was asked and meant to answer. Taebun asked me, I feel like, a good question way back in January, and it was something you had to look for a real long time and get in the last few months, and something I found really easy to get in the last few months, which I think is an interesting question to visit kind of mid-year, because obviously we all set priorities, or a lot of us do, not everyone does, but a lot of us set priorities at the beginning of the year, and it's interesting to see kind of what was easier to get and what was harder to get. I'll say hands down the easiest stuff to get recently has been album cards, and I think that is across the board for the solo releases that we've had, and also the OT7 album back collection. I think album cards are very easy to get depending on what markets you're looking in. So definitely those. It's honestly been really fun collecting for the solos because they've just been really enjoyable. They've been easy to trade for. I feel like it's reinvigorated trading somewhat in the community, which I think we can all agree is desperately needed. Also, I think this is Veeman's Young Forever Polaroid, which means it's hers because I obviously already own these cards, so I'm just going to put them back in this top loader. But yeah, anyway, I think definitely something that I found really easy to get in the last few months is album cards, whether that be because you can pull them all within a reasonable amount, or because people are willing to trade, maybe more so they have been historically. So yeah, I think I've really enjoyed collecting album cards lately, especially because, you know, I thought I was done, and then obviously chapter 2 happened, and then I just decided to collect OT7, so that's been nice that I've been able to accomplish that. Also, what the heck, I will definitely be taking these out because I don't think these are safe in here for transport. I feel like things are probably pretty bent, so let's just take all of these and I can repackage them in some better cardboard. So many Jungkook's. There's just so many. Anyway, and then to answer the second part of her question, which is something I found really hard, or I'm sorry, I had that wrong. Something you had to look for really long and got in the last few months. I would say, what should I spoil? What have I looked for really long? Oh, I found Jimin's Malaysia Hello Session postcard, which was on my high priority list. I'm really excited that I found it, especially because I had been looking for it for a while within a price range that I was willing to pay for. And then someone in my comments kind of dangled one in front of me and said, oh, I have one, but then I heard from them about it. So I was kind of like back to the drawing board on that. And then quickly I was able to find a listing from Instagram. And the problem with those cards is a lot of them are in really bad condition some of the time. Not quite sure why, but a lot of them can have a lot of damage to them. Maybe just because of their size or the way that they were handed out. I'm not entirely sure, but I've seen some really messed up looking ones. And so I was able to find one finally on Instagram and I bought it. And I'm really excited because, like I said, it was on my priority list and I found it in good condition. So very exciting. So many Jins. As you can see from my last haul, there was a big Hobie push the first time around, and then in this haul there was a big Jin push. And I'm happy to say, in combination with this haul, some stuff that I've gotten domestically, and one more haul coming from Japan, I have completed OT7 album. So it's actually going to be a while until you see what it looks like, because it's only July and I will not be reunited with my collection still for almost 2 months. But at least once I am reunited, it is done, which is very exciting. I cannot wait to see it all together. I'm seriously so excited. That also reminds me, I should probably say it's July 7th. So I know you're gonna be getting a video even in between this one coming out, because I am unexpectedly doing some long-term travel. I'm gonna be finishing up my program, and then I'm going to be in Western and Eastern Europe for almost 3 weeks traveling. So I will not have any time to be recording or collecting or doing anything like that. So I wanted to film this while I could and had the cards and could get a video all ready to go while I'm going to be MIA during my travels. But because of that, I can't comment on stuff that has certainly happened since I filmed this video. Obviously, I know 7 is coming out. 7's coming out next week for me, but will already definitely be out by the time that you are watching this video. So I'm sad that I can't comment on it, but just know that my lack of comment is only because this is past me, and past me has not experienced it yet. I'm also so curious to see if we're gonna get any formal announcement from JK, or if we're gonna hear about KTH1, or what will happen, because who knows what will be announced in the time of me filming this and this actually getting uploaded. So I don't know, I'm excited. We've got some more Jungos. This is such a cute unit card. Big fan. I can move everything down a bit. That was such a long tangent. I realized I was still answering Jenny's question. But yeah, the Jimin Hello Session postcard is something that I definitely looked for a long time before I was able to find a good price and a good condition. Deco your own NFT photo card in special clips. How about we say no to NFTs? Namjoon, get your PowerPoint out. Let's say no to NFTs. This is funny. Mary asked me back in January, would you start collecting another group this year? I obviously did that. I started collecting Ateez. When the year started, I was a fan of them, but I hadn't really started collecting them. I was only collecting BTS and then like fake collecting DXD. By fake collecting, I mean I just pick up an album every now and then and keep who I pulled. But I feel like if you heard me talk about my last video, I've really tried to hone those collections in a bit because they make me happy to have a little side project. So yes, I would start collecting another group this year. In fact, I did. As I've said before though, they're pretty unserious collections. Like, this is not happening for me in regards to any other group, though I very much am inspired by her Passion Young Fever, but this is just not my journey. So I will and have started collecting another group, but not to this extent. especially because now I have 7 solo careers to collect as well. I feel like I did adopt more collections than just the BTS collection because I also collect their solo work too. So yes and no. Best PC deal you ever got. I made a video about this, but it's for sure the Namjoon Puma card. That is a rare card. I don't know how many winners there were from that Puma Instagram event. Also, this is so funny. This is Stray Kids' Second World Tour Maniac. So we were reusing some packaging, love that, but I'm just gonna take them out of that because I don't trust plastic that looks like this. Who knows if that's PVC free? It's probably not. But anyway, as I was saying, best PC deal I ever got, definitely Namjoon Puma. I paid $10 for that, and I've seen people pay $300 for that because it is a rare card. It was an Instagram competition, I believe, and there were a select amount of winners, so it meets the rare parameters, and I only paid $10 for mine, which was very exciting because I would probably not have owned that card any other way. It's a super cute card, and I had the opportunity to own it for a really low price, which I always appreciate. And yeah, definitely the best PC deal I ever got. Besides, obviously, when you get sent free cards, but I feel like that's not really the question that you're asking. Obviously, anything free is the best deal, but in terms of value and price, it's definitely the best value item I've ever gotten for the lowest price. And he's so cute because his dimple is on display too. I'll put it up on the screen if you don't know what card I'm looking at, but honestly, those cards are so cute for all of the members. I wish I could own all of them, but it's very unlikely I'll be able to find anyone else for $10. What is your favorite solo song? Each from Veeman. This is so hard because honestly, I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, like all of their solo songs. There's some that I like more than others, but I like all of them. All of them are no skips for me, so I can't pick. I really can't. I think my highlights for Tay are usually Sweet Night, Stigma, 4 O'Clock, Winter Bear, Singularity, all of those. But literally, I like all of his solo songs. And then the same with Jimin. I think Face Off is my current fave, but it really just depends on my mood. You know, sometimes you want to listen to Filter. Sometimes you want to listen to Promise. Sometimes you want to listen to Alone. Sometimes you want to listen to Letter. Like, it just depends. So, all of the above, which I know is a cop-out, but I never claimed to not be an annoying question answerer. So, all of the above. I love skirting the issue if given the opportunity. Eddie K asked me any tips on how to get a hold of reasonably priced broadcast photo cards. Also, look at this packaging. This is crazy. Oh my goodness. Don't do that. Oh, thank goodness he doesn't have like a bend or anything, but I feel like you could really be at risk of bending a card if you do something like that. Just use cardboard. It's okay. What do people have against cardboard? Anyway, to answer the question, any tips? You must stay vigilant in following people on Instagram who own broadcast cards and announce that they're going to sell their collection. I think that's the best way, personally, to get your hands on broadcast cards. Depending on how you feel about Instagram resellers, I think they're also a good source as well, especially because there's a lot of resellers that have been posting lower Boonjong prices. And if you don't have access to buy from Boonjong directly yourself, sometimes an Instagram reseller just makes sense. And so I would recommend following the trusted accounts, ones that are able to communicate with the seller and send you a real photo and video and packaging proof and all that kind of stuff, or following people who have collections, have announced they're going to downsize, and that you know have broadcast cards in their collection. Turn their notifications on and be ready to strike. I would say having money set aside for a more pricey broadcast that you know that you want to get, and that when you come across that listing you can go for it, is the best way to get your hands on those kind of cards. And definitely broadcast prices are going down. I really hope to make an entire video dedicated to broadcast once I am back from my program and all my traveling and in my last year of school, because I had planned to make one this summer but forgot a few key pieces to that video. So I just, unfortunately, I'm very sorry. I'm just not able to make that video because I want it to be complete, and I'm being prevented from doing that. So because of my own forgetfulness, so apologies. If you're interested in me talking more about broadcast, I'm definitely plan to. I think the only thing I'll say is, unfortunately, my experience is obviously very limited to collecting Jimin and Tae. I don't really pay attention to the availability or the prices of other members, so I can give general ranges that I've seen, but I don't have a tailored approach for every member except for those two, just because I directly experienced it. So that is all I'll say too, is there's definitely different approaches with all kinds of merch that you should take depending on which member you collect or which group you collect and the kind of access you have to that merch. All a very important factor in how one can obtain a reasonably priced broadcast PC. So I'm just answering from like the US Army photocard market, because I know Eddie K is also US based. That's how I do it, mostly through Instagram. I find Mercari Japan to be sometimes helpful, but generally I try to avoid Mercari Japan for broadcast cards because that's just something that you need reassurance on. And I don't always feel good about taking the risk on broadcast cards because often they are some of the more pricey cards that I am purchasing, and it feels so much better to have someone you're directly in communication with, whether you're buying directly from a seller on Instagram or you are using a reseller or proxy person to help you contact someone on Boonjang or Korean Twitter or whatever it is. But yeah, those are my tips, and hopefully I can do a video on it and expand on my experience collecting broadcasts more, because I feel like it's its very own niche type of collecting. Is some people don't care at all about broadcasts, which is totally fine, and then there are other people who are really interested in collecting the broadcast cards but don't necessarily know where to start or what good price ranges are. So if I could be of any help, I would love to, and I hope to make that video before the end of this year ends, because I just want to make a type of video that I would have wanted to watch when I started collecting broadcasts myself as a collector last year when I was really heavily into broadcast collecting. So yeah, I'm definitely not the definitive person at all on broadcast collecting, but I hope I can offer some insight more than just what the few tips I gave you right now. This is a funny one from her too, is what are your honest thoughts on A5 binders? She's only asking me this because I'm in her DMs saying I don't like A5 binders. And it's not I don't like A5 binders on other people's collections. Let me say that first and foremost. Do whatever you want with your collection. It's not my collection. I don't look at it every day. It doesn't matter to me what you do with your own collection. She's asking me in the context of what are my thoughts on A5 binders for my own collection. I think in general they don't work for my collection. I really like it for my DVD collection, but that's about it. I guess I like it for my mini PC size merch photo cards. I think the A5 binders are great for that too. But in general, I don't like A5 binders for my collection. I think it's a waste of space and supplies and money to have like 35 A5 binders around. I also personally prefer the 9 pocket page look. I like the diversity of setups you could do. I love fillers, which you don't always get to do in 4 pocket A5s. I like appreciate the novelty of A5s and the transportability of A5s, but in general, I'm not a fan of them for my own collection purposes, because I would have so many inclusions that I couldn't even fit in an A5 that would just be sitting in the stuff that they originally came in. And this is not everyone's experience, but it is my experience that I do like bigger inclusions. I like being able to split up 9 pocket pages with different pocket pages. I think it makes for a more dynamic collection look when you get to kind of flip through between like a 9 pocket page and then a 4 pocket page, a 2 pocket page, then a 9 pocket page again. I just personally love that. I find it very visually appealing, and I get to see the large inclusions, and there are a lot of large inclusions that I really love that just would not fit at all in an A5. So I'm definitely team A4, but no hate to anyone who prefers the A5. I get it. Like I said, depending on the size of your collection, it's way more practical to have an A5. It's good if you want to keep yourself in check. Like if you're like, I only want to collect an A5 binder's worth of stuff, totally get it. Just for my like collecting goals and stuff, it just does not make sense for me to have that many A5s besides the specific types of merch that I've carved out for them. Mainly my DVD collection and my merch PCs. So it's also funny that she asked me this question because she obviously utilizes a lot of A5s in her own collection. collection. So we definitely differ in opinion on our personal preferences relating to A4s and A5s, but like I said, it has nothing to do with anyone else's collection. I just can't think of anything worse than having 35 A5s laying around filled with my collection. I feel like I wouldn't know where anything is all the time, and the lack of inclusion diversity is very annoying to me personally. But they are cute. There's no denying that. Someone asked me, what would you change if you could go back in time when you started your collection? I feel like I've answered this before, but I'll answer it again. So my answer to this question only works with hindsight. I would never, ever tell anyone who's just starting out collecting to take this advice, because you just never know. This is advice that I would exclusively give to myself, knowing what I know now and like what has happened. I would tell, well, first of all, I would tell November 2018 me to start collecting, but let's be more practical. March of 2020 me, who had more disposable income to collect, if I could talk to her, I would tell her, don't collect album cards right away. I collected album cards at a snail's pace for like almost a year before I really started to get into collecting. And it was just because I didn't really understand how collecting worked for like a year of collecting. Honestly, a year of collecting. It was like right before I started my channel, which was like July of 2021, something like that. So like I had been collecting on and off, mostly just album cards at like a snail's pace, and that's totally fine. I'm not knocking anyone's pace. Go at your own pace. I'm just saying, for me, I wish I had not spent a year snail's pace collecting album cards. I would have told myself, don't collect album cards right now. Collect other things. Collect other things, because album cards are always going to be around. And I obviously know now that I have a vested interest in having a collection that is bigger than just album cards. Now, the reason why I wouldn't tell the person just starting out that advice is because you don't know if you want to be collecting DVD cards. You don't know if you want to be collecting merch cards or tour cards or signed things. You don't know that. And I think it would be incredibly silly to immediately jump off the deep end into like rare merch. I think is kind of extreme. But I do wish that, knowing what I know now, I wish I would have not spent a year slowly collecting album cards, because obviously I wanted to expand my collection immensely. And I wish I had capitalized on that time. My friend Esther jumped into collecting pretty quickly, not exclusively doing album cards. She was looking for pretty hard to get cards almost immediately, which found her some pretty amazing success listing stories at really low prices. And I just wish I had been doing that in March of 2020. I don't think Esther started much before me collecting, so I just think about what she was able to accomplish in the first year of collecting versus what I was able to accomplish in the first year of collecting. And I really wish I could go back and tell March of 2020 me to just hold off on the album cards, because I mean, look at me now sitting here in July of 2023. Album cards are still just as easy to get, if not easier, I would argue easier to get than they were back in March of 2020. So yeah, that I don't like to live with regret, but it is certainly something that I can't help but think about from time to time, is that I wish I had just had the foresight to know that I personally wanted a bigger BTS collection than just album cards, and that I should have put album cards on the back burner. But again, that's not universal advice, and don't take that to heart if you have just started collecting and are starting with album cards. I think it's a really, you need to know yourself situation, and unfortunately you really can't know yourself until you get some experience collecting. But so maybe if it's not immediately, I wish I would have just realized it sooner, that I like wanted a bigger collection and had some more focus away from the album cards, because obviously album cards are a natural place to start. But knowing what I know now and everything that has happened, I wish I just had not spent my initial year on album cards, to be honest. I say that, it's so funny, but like I'm obviously having my friends focus on album cards for BTS. It really makes the most sense if you don't know know where you want to go with collecting. It's not that financially ruinous to be collecting album cards, especially these days. And then you can get a feel if you feel motivated to keep collecting more. But it's just frustrating because I know myself now, and I know the type of collector I've become. And I just want to shake myself and be like, don't do that. Focus on other things. But it's okay. What's done is done, and there's nothing we can do about it now. So it's no use living with regrets. And especially because the tide is turning and prices are decreasing, it's hard to live with regrets because it's like, I don't know, the stuff that I didn't get back then, I mean, I'm having the chance to get now, so it's fine. It'll all work out in the end. Best of luck with you wherever you are in your current collecting journey. There's no point in regretting, even if we want to kick some of our decisions sometimes. If I have any life goals for 2023 or just anything I'm striving for, I think it's funny answering these now because obviously all of these questions were asked in the context of me asking it in January, so a lot of the questions are goal oriented. But I thought this one was nice. It's about my own like personal life goals. My personal life goal is to get a job offer this year. And it's funny because in the next few weeks, I will know if that job offer is coming. So that would have been my answer in January, and it's still my answer now, is the main thing that I'm striving for this year. Beyond that, what I'm also striving for is just to enjoy this last year. It will be my last year of school ever. Thank gosh. I'm not going back for even more higher education. I'm already in higher ed, and this is as high of ed as I need to go. Striving for just kind of enjoying this last year before everything changes literally forever. My life is going to drastically change when I graduate and start working. So yeah, I just want to enjoy the friendships I have, the people I have around me, the life experiences, the traveling I'm gonna get to do, the schedule that I have now, all of the above. I want to enjoy collecting. I want to enjoy things before you know what happen in BTS world. And yeah, I don't know. That's easier said than done. This year has been good and bad for many different reasons we don't have to get into, but I think it's funny coming back around to this question now just because we're on month 7 of 2023. So it'll be interesting revisiting these kind of questions at the end of the year. I feel like that's probably the last question I will answer because I'm on my last 2 cards. This is actually the first photo card that I ever pulled and gave to a friend because I didn't understand collecting at the time. And I was like, yeah, sure, you can have it. I don't need it. It's fine. What is a photo card anyway?
What's poppin', guys?
He's finally making his return to my collection, which is very exciting. And then last for me, and last of this video, is actually Yoongi's Japan fan club lucky draws. So you will definitely have already seen these in my last video because I will be uploading my D-Day sorting video before you see this video. But here they are. I got them directly from Japan. I didn't get UMS, but I did get Japan Fan Club because I just really liked these concepts a lot, particularly this one. I just think it's a very cool card. So hopefully future me for this me, but past me for you, because you will have already seen the D-Day sorting video, found a good way to display these. But there they are. And that marks the end of another very long Japan haul. As you can see, someone made a lot more progress than other people in this haul did, but that is okay. The Jungho album benefit collection is coming along swimmingly. As you can see, we just dispatched our last big batch of the summer, so that's very exciting. A lot of the earlier eras are coming her way, so I'm excited to see it all together and how she organizes it for sure. And then for me, it should be basically the end of my OT7 album collecting, so I'm also extremely looking forward to that. And then she is kind of in limbo. She's really got to figure out what she wants to do, which is why there was less in this haul for her. It was just the last remaining big inclusions and a few cards here and there. But yeah, so that is the end of this video. I think next up will be me organizing a makeshift collection because I know it's a lot later for you, but it's only July 7th for me, and I still have 2 months away from my collection. So because of that, I will be doing some pre-filming. Apologies for not commenting on 7 yet. It's just not out yet. And apologies for not commenting on what I don't even know not to comment on yet. But I hope you understand, and I hope you enjoyed anyway. Please leave a like if you did. You can comment if you would like to, and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. And otherwise, I hope you're having a good day, and I will see you all soon. Goodbye.
Get the hell out.